Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. We are so excited today. We are here to do our next episode of our best of the last 25 years movies that we have been doing. It's been a lot of fun. We have two previous episodes up. And so now today we are doing our 20 through 11. And I've got quite a variety actually for me in this list and some fan favorites. So it'll be fun to see what people think. But I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Alise Chaffins is here.
Hello.
Yeah.
This is my horror block this week.
Ah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think the only real horror that I have, I guess, is The Menu. Is my only real like horror. But I do have a family horror,
Ooh,
family
yay.
thriller in this group. So this will be fun. All right. Well, let's dive in. What do you have at 20?
So at number 20, I have Booksmart. That was the Olivia
Okay.
Wilde
Yeah,
film.
I like that.
I did not generally go for the like raunchy comedy. That's not really my style. And comedy in general is just so hit or miss. But something about this movie, I love the friendship between the girls. Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein are just so good in it. And I love their friendship. And it just, I don't know, something about just the wacky, I don't know, nature of it just really clicked for me. It's one I've watched
Yeah.
more times than I would expect to for
Yeah.
something like this, and I just really enjoy it. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
was a pretty because it was like it was funny. It is funny, and it's all about friendship
yeah,
or friendship.
exactly.
So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good choice. Well, my
yeah.
number 20 is also comedy. I have My Big Fat Greek Wedding at
Ah,
20. I love
there
this
you
movie.
go.
I think it's one of those movies that doesn't forget the calm and the rom-com. It's
Exactly.
genuinely really funny. And what I also, because normally I don't like wedding movies. It's kind of a
Mm.
thing. If you follow me on Hallmarkies podcast, you know that like usually I'm like, oh, because the thing is that like most weddings are pleasant, like happy and
Right.
festus. And so like in order to make conflict, you have to inject all of this artificiality, all of it. You make the characters really unlikable. And like this recent You're Cordially Invited.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one
A
yet.
terrible, terrible film. I mean, there's been so many bad ones. A lot of them starring J Lo. She's in a lot of bad wedding movies, and so the thing that they do with this one that makes it work is that there's never any doubt that they're going to be together, that they are going to get married. Uh, like really, they're kind of up for anything. They just want to get married. She's like, I'll
Exactly.
wear that.
Whatever, it's fine.
I'll get baptized. I'll do whatever I have to do. You can use those invitations, and I just think that makes them very likable, and it just has so many funny lines.
Absolutely.
So
Oh, good choice.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you have at 19?
So my 19 is actually a documentary, and it is The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. I have watched this movie, I couldn't even tell you how many times. It is easily my favorite doc. It is, and I love it
It's a good
because,
one.
yeah, Seth Gordon like puts it together in such a way that you have this villain in Billy Mitchell and you have this absolute hero in Steve Wiebe, and they are playing Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's a like classic video game kind of thing. And they're
The Billy
trying for
Mitchell, he's
the
such a villain
He's
though. Oh
such
my
a
gosh.
villain. It's amazing. And he's just a villain in real life, kind of like he is a cheater. And I love this movie so much.
Yeah.
Like truly. I could not even say I genuinely don't know how many times I've watched it. I have
Fun one.
cried along with Steve when he doesn't win. It's just amazing. It's just this really like it's this epic story, but it's like the tiniest story also, and I love the way it just comes together. It is absolutely one of my all-time
Yeah,
favorites.
that's a good one. I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about that movie in a long time. Yeah. Well, my number 19 is actually Midnight in Paris.
Have I
And
seen that?
oh, you haven't? Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
think so.
it's Woody Allen, and
Yeah, right, right.
a lot of people don't want to watch movies with him, which fair enough.
Yeah,
I totally get. But
no,
I love this one because I think like how many of us we think, oh, I wish I'd been born in a different era. I would have fit
Yeah.
in way better in that era. Um, but so this character, he totally does that. He idealizes the writers from the 20s and 30s, and he gets the chance to meet like Gertrude Stein and F. Scott Fitzgerald, and all of the cameos are so good. I love Corey Stoll as Hemingway. That's really
Nice.
good. And I just think it has like a real like has something to say that like how we value, because when
Mm.
he meets the Marion Cotillard character, she is doing the same thing about like the era, the from like the late 1800s. Oh,
Hmm.
I wish
Nice.
our era is so lame. I wish it was then, and he can't believe it. So I thought that was really good, and it's
Nice.
a and also Martin what's his name uh Michael Sheen. I'm gonna say Martin
Hmm.
Sheen. I'm like, no, that's not it.
Right, right.
Michael Sheen plays this like pedantic professor, and
Excellent.
he's very funny in it. And
Nice.
it's just I just really like it. I think it's underappreciated.
Hmm.
You should check it out.
Absolutely.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
My 18 is another one of our crossovers, and this is the menu from 2022. I love, and we've talked about this already, so whichever episode that is. But I love the way it deals with class, and it's a really good blend of horror and comedy. I think it just hits that mark really well, and like a social message. And it just like manages
Yeah.
to mesh all of those together just
It's
really well. And
funny.
it's, yeah.
It's so good.
And
It's
it's
really really
sharp. It
good.
looks really good. Like I
Yeah.
just, yeah, like it's just a really, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my number 18 is one of my cheats. I have the Irish trilogy of Tom Moore's Irish trilogy with Wolf Walkers, Song of the Sea, and
Mhm.
Secret of the Kells. I love all three. If
Yes,
I had to
excellent.
pick one, I would pick Song of the Sea.
Mm.
It's one of the more memorable film watching experiences of the last 25 years. My cousin had passed away a month or two before, and at her funeral her little son spoke, and it was devastating, of course.
Yeah.
And so to watch this movie just months later about this little boy grieving the loss of his mother and getting a chance to say goodbye, it was just like, oh,
Mm.
I just thought it
Yeah.
was so beautiful. And like how he's able to forgive her for leaving, it's just so beautiful. Um and I love Wolfwalkers too. I think it is absolutely stunning. They invented like a whole new way to do animation just for that movie. It's unbelievable.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and Secret of the Kells is great. I just
Yeah.
they're really special films, I think. And Cartoon Saloon so far, they just have not missed. I mean, every single the Breadwinner, that's really great. They are just a really great animation studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
choice. Yeah. Love those cheats. Yeah.
Hmm.
So my number 17 is Get Out. Um it's
Yeah,
just it's so great. You
it's a really
have,
good one.
yeah, I mean,
That's an
I
honorable
just,
mention for me, but I do really enjoy it. It's the kind of movie you keep thinking about after
yeah,
you've seen it.
exactly. Yeah. Like I've watched it, 3 times. I don't know, but I've more
Yeah.
than that. But again, it hits this really great, interesting, like combination of like horror and humor and message. And I'm just
Yeah.
always impressed when films are able to like navigate that and just hit it really, really well. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for basically everything he does right
Yeah.
now. Like, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah. I mean, I think his other films have been more mixed bags for me, but I'm always curious to see what he's going to do.
For
It's going
sure.
to be interesting, even if I don't love it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too that works with Peele is just that he has this he has gone in so many different directions. You have this like psychological thriller with Get
Yeah.
Out, and then you have this like more like straight slasher kind of movie with Us. And then you have a creature feature with Nope. And I just kind of like that he's like
Yeah.
playing in the genre of horror and he's not just like pigeonholing as one particular kind. And for me, I think that's part of what works.
Yeah.
But Get Out's just a
Yeah.
masterpiece and I
Great
love it.
choice.
So, yeah.
Well, another cheat I have for 17. I have my two Pixar movies for this list. I have Up and Inside Out. I couldn't
Oh.
decide. I love them both. And I guess if I had to pick, I'd pick Up. I had a really close relationship with my grandfather who passed away in 2001. And when I watched this movie, he's not grumpy. He was not grumpy like Carl, but I don't know. Watching this movie is just I feel like I get to have a conversation with my grandpa. I just love its message of forgiveness and that he didn't think that what he had given Lily was good enough. He didn't think it was enough, and so when he sees that at the end, go have a great adventure, he he realized she really did love him. It just makes me,
Yeah.
it's like so good. Um, and I love the music, I love the story. I just think it's great. And then Inside Out, I think it is really, really well done. It's funny, it's heartfelt, it's emotional.
Yeah.
Those are my two favorite.
No, that's yeah, hard to go wrong with either of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. What do you have at 16?
So 16, again, still horror. It is Zombieland, the
Mm.
2009 original. I don't know, like something about this movie. I think I was just coming out of the all of my kids are very little, and so all I've watched is a lot of like family stuff and stuff that I like, plenty of stuff that I like, but like I was able to watch more like grown-up movies again.
Yeah.
And something about Zombieland, I again, I horror and comedy together are just a real good mix for me. And like I think you could kind of see that in nearly all of
Yeah.
my horror choices are things that have some element of comedy to them
Yeah.
because
I'm the
they're just so
same.
close. Yeah.
I'm the same. I think that's why I like Sam Raimi or some of these people like
Yeah.
they works really well. My number 16 is actually where I have the Lord of the Rings.
Ah, right on.
Yeah, and I'm
Lord of the Rings
normally
will be higher for me. That's next week.
I'm normally not a fantasy person. Like I normally do not like those kind of stories. Um, and they just, I don't know, they just usually I just have a hard time connecting with them, with the
Hmm.
characters and the story, and I like things that feel like I was the kind of kid that I would prefer reading like Little Women, or Anna Green Gables or something like that, as opposed to some fantasy fake, that was just the way I've always been. So the fact that this movie makes my top 20 these movies says something because the characters are so good. And one of the things I think that really helps this set of movies is at the very beginning they get all the lore out of the way. It's
Yeah.
just here's the preamble, here prologue, whatever, and they just get it out of the way so you're not bogged down by boring mythology. And then they just go from there. It's all about the characters and Samwise is such a great character, and you feel so it really becomes his story as opposed to Frodo by the end. And um yeah, it's I think pretty much a perfect film. Maybe they're a little bloated. The second one, maybe I would cut down on some of the battles, maybe are
Mm.
a little much, but I think they're very, very, very good. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, for
Um
sure.
yeah. So what do you have at 15?
So 15 for me is a film that didn't get like tons of air, it feels like to me, but it is Captain Fantastic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
With Viggo Mortensen. This is just a beautiful family film, and I love the way that you have this father who, loses his wife, and they've had this very off the grid kind of family life with their many kids. And they go and they have to like figure out what to do about, his wife picking up their mom and everything. And I love the way that it blends like these really deeply held beliefs that that this character has, and then how he has to like integrate them with other people who maybe don't have them or who want to like try to understand them, but yeah, but maybe don't fully, and letting go of kids as they kind of make their own
Yeah.
decisions and are determining, okay, yes, I love some of these things that you've done, but I want to live a life that's different than that. And like,
Yeah.
it's this interesting way of like figuring out how do I adjust my beliefs to like live with other people in some kind of peace. And then
Yeah.
also, how do I let go of my kids and let them hold on to something that's important to me, but live their own life. And I just, as a parent and as somebody who like has parents and everything, I love the way that it deals with those issues. I think it's just a really fascinating film and it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's good because it's a little bit messy. I
Yeah.
mean, I famously, one of my least favorite movies the last 25 years was The Glass House with
Mm,
I hated that movie so much.
yeah.
And here you have this father who's been so horrible and they're toasting him at the end and
Yeah.
and I like this Captain Fantastic much better that they don't try to do that. They don't try to turn him into the hero.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I just think it hits a really interesting spot. And at the very least, I think it can get you thinking about how to go through those kind of
Yeah.
relationships. So, yeah,
Well,
15.
my number 15 is one you already had.
Mm.
It's where I have Parasite.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
Parasite at 15.
So good.
And it's so good. And I there's so many things that you could talk about with Parasite. I do think it's a perfect film. I mean, everything from the performances to the writing to the everything. And I love the fact that it has something to say, but it's still entertaining. It doesn't get lost in an agenda, which I really appreciate. And like
Right.
I mean, I always enjoyed it, but when I found out about the visual effects, that like took it to a whole new level. Like
Yeah.
when I found it, like that whole house is fake. It's all fake. I was like,
Right.
what? I thought that was amazing. I can't believe that it looked so good.
It is. It is incredible.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's thoughtful. It's a great movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's one it could have gone higher. I don't know. When you start talking
Yeah.
about these ranks are a little iffy on some
I
of
mean,
this for
it's
me.
nice that the Oscars got it right for
Oh my
once.
gosh, seriously. Yeah.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast. My name is BJ.
And my name is Me Too, and we promise this promo is worth it, so please don't skip ahead.
We're two judgy friends who put our judgmental skills to work for you. We review the pilot episodes of new and popular shows and shows that our listeners request to answer your question, should I watch this?
Look, a lot of us are spending a lot more time at home, and yes, we should be reading and trying new projects and enriching ourselves, but does anything beat binging a great show?
Let us take the guesswork out of deciding what your next show will be. Tune in to The Pilot Podcast at thepilotpodcast.com.
So what do you have at 14?
So 14 is last year's The Substance, which I am all fingers crossed for Demi Moore on Sunday. I love this movie. I think it is, again, I think the humor in it is like fantastic. And for a body horror movie, which is like a really tough genre, and a lot of times in body horror kind of stuff, they'll pick one, and she does all of it. Like
Yeah,
Coraline, for
that's
sure.
true.
It's like, do you not like watching people eat and hearing that? You're gonna see that. Do you hate like fingernail and tooth stuff? You're gonna
True.
have that. If you have like even just like orifices, you're gonna have like literally any kind of body horror that you hate. It is in this movie, and to pair that with just like how it is to exist as particularly an older woman, and particularly I know that it's like very specific to like Hollywood and entertainment,
Yeah.
but I think it like transfers across that.
Mhm.
And I love it. I love the
Uh,
performances. I think to me and Margaret Qualley are both just phenomenal in it. It's just I love it.
Yeah,
And-
it's really good. I liked it a lot too. And the thing that was stood out to me is that yes, of course it's about body image and being a woman but I thought it was a little bit deeper than that because
Mhm.
every time she she gets praised for her looks, it's always coupled with "we love you." Your fans love
Mhm.
you. We love you. It says it on the cards. It says it on the
Right.
flowers. Love you. Love, love, love. And this is a very lonely woman. I mean,
Mhm.
it is one of those movies. If you start picking at it, it kind of falls apart. So you just kind of have to accept it because
Yeah.
she of course would have like an agent and a even manager of course, but I just thought that that was really interesting. And how often do we equate physical beauty with virtue? You know, that
Yeah.
oh well, they're such a nice person, they're so charismatic, they're so like they can't be a dictator, you know. But and so I thought that there was a little bit of a layer there in it that
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
about loneliness and so yeah, good pick. My number 14 is actually where I have Pitch Perfect. One of my
Yay.
favorite comedies. It might be. Is it my? Well, I guess no. I have one other, but yeah, one of my favorite comedies. The college that I went to, like acapella, was a big deal.
Right.
At BYU, it's like a big deal, and so I kind of connected with it on that level. But the songs are so good and you know it's kind of a rom-com-ish but it's genuinely really funny and I especially Fat Amy, I loved her so much in this. I thought she was so funny. And the second one is not very good, but the third one is absolutely
Comes
awful.
back.
But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but the but this first one I will always love.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So what do you have
Yeah.
at 13?
So 13 is the film Stranger Than Fiction
Oh, I
with Will
love that
Ferrell.
one.
It is
Yeah, that's
such
a good one. Underrated.
yeah, I feel like it is. I love Will Ferrell's just sense of comedy. Like I know that he's kind of hit or miss for a lot of people, but I really like his stuff. But something about just this the story is so bizarre and like it's one that you just again you kind of just have to go with it rather than think about it too hard.
Yeah.
Um but I love it. I love the relationship with him and Maggie Gyllenhaal. I think it's just fantastic. I love her in this movie. You know,
When
a
he buys her
dozen
the
the
flowers, I
flowers. Yeah,
love.
it's a dozen flowers. I mean, that's just gorgeous. I
Only
mean, it's
flower.
like so sweet. And
Yeah.
then, but also, I just think it's just interesting in a look again at like these small things that we do every day. And
Yeah.
like,
Well,
there's
and
nothing,
also,
there's never a time where he does any kind of like big whatever. It's
yeah.
he falls in love with somebody. He's an IRS guy or whatever. Yeah, I think that's an auditor. And like he just is a guy and that's it. Like that's
Yeah.
the whole movie. There's never anything huge, but like ugh,
But it's something
it
we can
just
all
gets
connect with
yeah,
because what kind of story are you telling?
right.
You know, is the main message. Like, when he starts hearing the voice, he's like, it's what does he say? Like, more well spoken than me and more
Right.
interesting. And then, yeah, and that's an interesting idea of like, what story are we telling? And if I read the book on my story, would I want to read it? Is it a good
Right.
story? That's
Ugh,
interesting. Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
just it's
And I
just
do love
beautiful.
that flowers. He bought her
Oh,
flowers.
it's so good. Yeah.
My number 13 is where I have the Spider-Verse movies.
Ugh,
Um,
fair.
the animation is absolutely stunning, unbelievable. But I think the characters are also good. I definitely like feel for Miles, uh, especially in in the first one, what he has to go through, and it's also quite funny, and with all our different Spider-Man characters and anime Spider-Man and Spider-Pig and all of that. And I remember when I went and saw Venom just so I could see the first 20 minutes of Spider-Verse.
Right. Best part of the Venom movie.
It was unbelievable.
Is-
I was like, yeah, it hurt Venom because
Yeah,
having to
no
compare.
doubt. Oh
But that
gosh.
leap of faith
Yeah.
is an all-timer.
It is. It's gorgeous. And
Yeah.
like I think one of the things, especially if you're talking about like the first two, the second movie is definitely a bridge movie to the third, but it
Uh,
still manages to be like a whole movie itself. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm just like now waiting to see what happens. I mean, I am and cannot wait for that moment,
yeah,
but it
I
also
know. I
is
can't
just, it
wait.
tells a complete story. And I think
Yeah.
that is really impressive as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like I didn't
great
feel
choice.
I know some people were annoyed about it being a part one and they could have marketed that better, but
Yeah.
I felt like it was enough of a story. There were a few loose ends, but not like
Yeah.
I don't know. I did feel like a huge cliffhanger.
Yeah, and I feel like Miles goes on for himself a complete journey to where he will pick up in the next movie.
Yeah,
Like, and
absolutely.
I think that's kind of what, yeah, like the story isn't complete, but like Miles has a change. Like he goes through a full like arc in
Yeah.
that movie. I think that's why it works.
The
So,
second one
yeah.
does get a little exposition heavy, I think, in some
Yeah,
spots.
definitely couple times.
Especially when they're in that like hub of Spider-Mans. It
Yeah.
can get a little exposition heavy, but it's unbelievable artistic achievement.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So what do you have at 12?
So number 12 for me is the animated film Robot Dreams
Oh,
from 2023.
so good.
Ah, I just adore this movie. I have sat and cried to this movie many times. I don't think September 21st will ever happen again where I don't watch this movie. It's just I love that it doesn't end the way it feels like both a wrong ending and an absolutely perfect ending.
Yeah.
And I I love that tension there. I think
Yeah.
it is epically
Something to
beautiful
say about
storytelling.
friendship
Oh my
and
goodness. Yeah,
what we kind of sacrifice for our friends
yeah.
and their bond together. It's just so good. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's one that to me is kind of perfect. I don't know what I would change about it.
Yeah.
Like
Agreed.
it's
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Well, my number 12 is where I have Coraline.
oh there.
I
That's a
love
horror. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is my family horror. Yeah, I think it's genuinely very creepy and scary. The button eyes is very scary. But again, it's another movie where I think there has something to say.
Mhm.
It's not just for fun. But that Coraline, she has to decide whether she's going to love her parents and fight for them, even though they're kind of horrible. And it's easy to love people that are easy to love. It's like that scripture verse says, they have their reward. But her parents are kind of awful. But she realizes so quick that that the this is not, the button eyes is not right. It's not,
Right.
and she has to kind of fight for her very flawed parents. And I just really appreciate that. I love her character. Of course, the animation's incredible. And that stop motion. I love the
Yeah.
music. I think it's just a really, really, really good film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So what do you have at 11?
All right, so my last one is one last horror one for today, and it is The Cabin in the Woods.
Ah,
I there is just something about this movie. Again, this is one that I've just watched a bunch of times, and I really think it comes down to I love the jump scare credits. Like as soon as that happens, I was like all in. It's just two dudes like driving in their little like, you know, golf cart kind of thing through a hole, and then all of a sudden, the cabin in the woods. And I think that is just already fantastic. And the end is just not what I expected at all. When I first watched it, I was like, oh, okay, that works.
mhm.
And I don't know, I just think the characters are funny. I
Yeah.
like the way that it spoofs. Like to me, I like the way that it spoofs on the slasher genre a little more than I like the Scream movies. I enjoy the Scream movies, but I think this one just hits it a little bit better in the way that it like kind of goes with that. I love all the monsters at the end when they are in the hall with like every monster imaginable. It's this bloody, gory horror fest, and I think it's just really fun. I
Yeah.
just yeah, it's a favorite. So
I've actually never seen that. That's a
it's
blind
a it's
spot.
a weird movie, but man, it's a really fun
Yeah.
one. I don't know.
Well, my number 11 is actually where I have Slumdog Billionaire. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel like this movie, because it came out the same year as The Dark Knight, and people are like uh grumpy that it, got nominated over The Dark Knight and that it won Best Picture. I don't know. I just feel like I often see it in lists of the most overrated Best Picture winners, and I just disagree. I really love it. I love the filming of it. I love the energy of it. But I love the whole idea of basically this love story saving both of these people, and him telling the story through this millionaire, thing. And I just think it's such a good film. And it was one of the first like R-rated films that I really loved, because I didn't
Mm,
see 2008. I certainly wasn't a critic, and I didn't really see very many R-rated films. And this was one of the first that I actually like really loved. And so it's kind of important in that way. And I just love the structure of it, and I love the
hmm.
performances, and I think it's really good.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I agree. Like anytime I see it on one of those like overrated, I'm like, but is it though? I don't
Yeah.
know that that's real.
I mean, I would have it actually very high in my
Hmm.
favorite as far as just movies that I like, because a
Right.
lot of the best picture winners I admire, but I don't really like love them,
That's
but this
fair.
one I love. And the story, and him being able to forgive his brother is
Yeah.
really good. And um so yeah, it's I think it's very good. So I have, for mine,
Fantastic.
I have Slumdog Millionaire at 11. I have Coraline at 12. I have Spider-Verse films at 13. Pitch Perfect at 14. Parasite at 15. Lord of the Rings at 16. Up and Inside Out at 17. Song of the Sea, the Irish trilogy. At 18, I have Midnight in Paris at 19. And I have My Big Fat Greek Wedding at 20.
Excellent. And I have The Cabin in the Woods at 11, Robot Dreams at 12, Stranger Than Fiction at 13, The Substance at 14, Captain Fantastic at 15, Zombieland at 16, Get Out at 17, The Menu at 18, The King of Kong at 19, and Booksmart at 20.
Very good. Well, let us know what you think of these picks and what you would have on your list. To make sure you check out the previous episodes for our other picks, because it's a lot of fun. I put a link in the description. You definitely want to check that out. And Alise, how can people find you?
I'm at Alise Chaffins pretty much everywhere. You can find me pretty easily. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over the place. So make sure to check that out. And also check out the Hallmarkies podcast. Lots of fun stuff going on over there. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate it. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support everything we're doing. And we sure appreciate it. And then we have our merch store where you can get fun movie inspired merch. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.